One thing that has really caught my attention recently, and one thing I've really been studying and thinking more about, is the difference between a poor and middle class mindset and that of a rich person's mindset. And you know, for me, I came definitely from a strongly middle class mindset in terms of my family upbringing. My parents, well, at least on my mom's side, most of them were either professionals or they worked in an office, and the mindset there was you work, you know, for as long as you can, and you pay your bills first, and you save up money so that when you stop working, you have you have enough money to last you until you die, basically. And that was kind of and there was the idea that it was possible to get rich, but you'd either have to like go to school for a really long time, or you'd have to be in some sort of like entertainment or famous in some way, or you'd have to do something illegal, you know? And those were never really said as much as they were just expressed, those values. So I never really expected to be super wealthy, I think, until I began reading a lot like personal development books or things to expand my mind. I never really thought of myself even as having the potential of being rich until I started to really open my mind up and I started working on business stuff. Had no idea it was possible. Now, recently though, I still realize how much I struggle and battle with the mindset of just completely middle class, normal person. And one of those ways is understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. So this is basic like Rich Dad Poor Dad stuff. And I'd read this book, you know, years ago, probably 10 years ago. And when I read it at the time, I didn't really get it. I got it, like I can understand it conceptually, but I think I didn't really understand how it applied to my life at that time. And then between like 2010 and 2015, when I started making more and more money, the bank account was growing, but my mindset about money wasn't really growing. And over the past 5 years since then, or 3 years since then, you know, between 2015 and now, 3.5, 4 years since then, between 2015 and now, I've started to make more money, but one thing I've been neglecting, leaving out, is really creating strong investments, strong asset generators, right? Because we're so used to basically living within our means, or supposedly living below our means, and paying our bills and then saving some and having that money left over. And you create money for yourself that way, but you don't create freedom, right? Because you need something that generates cash. Most of us only have liabilities. Liabilities are the things that require cash to run. Assets are things that create money, right? So you need things that create money in your life. And I'm not necessarily talking about a business. It can be a business that you turn into a machine that is an asset then, and that's why you can sell that. But more in terms of your investments, thinking about things like real estate, thinking about things that create money for you and compound over time without you having to be in there and run it, that do it pretty much independent of your intervention. And these are the systems that middle class people, and especially people in the lower classes, or I guess it should just be, it's like poor, not lower as a person, but poor. Like people who grow up poor, people who grow up middle class, they're not taught that. They're taught to buy all the liabilities that they think they should have: the cars, the jewelry, the clothes, the house, especially the house. You know, they're taught to buy all those things, and they're not taught how to take the money that they earn from their income, because all this money that they're buying these consumer goods with and these liabilities with, that's all money from their paycheck, right? So they only have one source, and they take that money and they spend it on things that then don't create any extra money. So they're taking their small bit of income that they have and throwing it into things that immediately depreciate and go away. And even if it's a large income, you can be making $1 million a year, but if you're just throwing it into things that don't have any value, depreciate in value, or don't create more money for you, then you'll never be wealthy. You know, and I knew this on paper, but I never really started to think about it in this way until I was honestly recently. It was like within the past 6 months to a year. Really thinking, okay, what am I actually trying to accomplish here? Because even when the book came out, when Rich 20 came out, yeah, making money is one thing. Like creating millions of dollars is a thing, but it's not really that meaningful unless you create wealth with it, you know? So it's really hammering home that concept of like, okay, now that I have the ability to do work and get compensated for it, it can't just be about me, it can't just be about me making more money. It has to be about me creating something, you know, something to actually pass on, you know. And maybe it's because I'm getting older, you know, I just turned 31 this year. And you know, married now, and I think about things with more long-term focus now. So I think that's definitely part of it, Zaddy, you know. But I think also just like the realization of like, even thinking about my parents who are in their, well, my mom's in her 40s still. Like, it's crazy that she's still in her 40s. My dad just turned 50, and they're still working hard and they're doing great work. But I don't want to, you know, they don't have like huge, you know, portfolio to pull from. You know, they don't have, you know, they don't have like several different rental properties or all these different assets that some families might have. And I'm only realizing that now is a thing that you have to, if you don't have that generational wealth, you have to go out there and create it. You know, to create it, you have to understand it. To understand it, you have to go back to just basics, assets and liabilities. You know, and so really understanding that like it's your job to take the money that you get from your job and to create things with it that generate money of their own accord. It's almost like making an actual money machine. You know, if you can create several $1 million in investment in your portfolio, in your real estate holdings, and you can create, you know, several $1 million worth of different investments, they're all going to be spending back money over a period of 10 to 20 years. And that's money that comes in increasingly without you having to do anything for it. And it's really like, if you think about your working life right now, you know, you're working at a job or you own a business, whatever, it takes energy, you know. No matter what they say, no matter what I say, I'll even tell you in a webinar or in marketing, you know, reduce your time and, you know, take your time back. And that's part of it. Yeah, you can reduce your time in a business, you can become more productive and streamlined, but at the end of the day, everything takes energy. And whatever you're spending your energy on should be should be something that that generates a compounded amount of ROI, right? When you spend time on something, it shouldn't be something that is just a one and done. And it's almost like that's what your job is. You go there and you're investing your time, but you don't get any more return on that time after you're done, you know? Whereas when you create a portfolio, you do real estate, you create other investments that have cash flow, that are producing money without you being there, your ROI extends far past the time that you had to put in to get those assets. The ROI continues on forever. And that's how generational wealth is set up. And when you have enough of an impact that you make that the ROI goes on for a long, long time, that's what happens if you are a billionaire, you know, or you know, one of the, like, you know, the oil and gas and steel and coal magnates in the US, you know, back in the 1800s and 1900s, some of those families are still going. You know, the freaking Vanderbilts of the world are still going, you know. They're gonna have generational wealth because that ROI is going on forever, you know. And you can take your own version of that, though. You can do your own version of that. So start now. Anyway, these are realizations that I've been having. I think that they're super important. I think that, you know, if you're in your 20s or 30s, you definitely still have time. And if you're in your 40s, you first, just to have the awareness of what's actually happening is so important. And then to start making moves now, because it doesn't have to take you that long to create some real passive income. I mean, even with real estate, you know, within a 10-year period, you could make significant progress. It would take you energy though, so it's better to do it as soon as possible. But yeah, within 5 to 10 years, you could probably create, you know, a solid enough cash flow to live off of, for sure. So yeah, I've dedicated 5, just asterisk, 5 to 10 years of dedicated focus. That's the key to everything, right? Dedicated focus. So anyway, yeah, I mean, this is up to you. This is completely up to you, this journey that you want to take. But those are some of my financial insights, some of my things I've been thinking about. Leave a comment below. Like, what I'm really curious to know is, how were you raised? Were you raised in, you know, a poor class where you had a poor mentality? Were you raised kind of middle class where you might have had enough money but you didn't really understand what was happening? Or were you raised rich? And that's interesting too. Like, how were you raised to think about money? Because I can tell you for a fact, you know, and leave that in the comments below. I can tell you for a fact that one of the things in my family was, at least with some people in my family, was we don't talk about money. That alone made it a thing that was foreign to me until I investigated it myself, you know? And growing young people need to know this stuff. So anyway, how were you raised? How were you brought up? Curious to know. Leave a comment below. Subscribe if you haven't. That's all I got for you. Peace. Oh yeah, follow me on Instagram. Later.